We can't hear you, Junior.
There we go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. So welcome. It is a phenomenal Thursday. And this is Breakfast with the Brand. We're back with a phenomenal show for you. Go ahead and you already know what to do. Put your flames in the chat. I see Bradley is way ahead of the crowd. So Bradley says, phenomenal Thursday morning all from Texas. Listen, man, I want to go to Texas one day, Bobby. I need to see what it's like in Texas, man. I've looked at Chuck Norris, and I've looked at all types of shows about Texas.
Yeah.
I need to go there, man. I need to go and see. Bradley, what is it like in Texas? Put it in the chat. I know that Texas is a phenomenal place. And Dr. Michelle says, okay, feeling thankful Thursday. All right, so shout out to Dr. Michelle. And shout out to you, Bobby. How you doing, man?
I'm absolutely phenomenal, Junior. Did chest this morning. So I'm not sure if we're still mirroring each other, but one thing that came to mind was a lot of people are taught in school to solve for X, right? Solve for X. I was walking home from the gym today and I said to myself, solve for excellence. If you had to put an equation together, why not solve for excellence? So I'm feeling excellent this morning. I'm feeling engaged. I'm excited to talk about today's topic as well. How are you feeling?
I feel I'm in one of those moods where I feel very philosophical, man. So who knows, we might drop a little bit of wisdom here and there. But I'm feeling pretty hopeful. I'm feeling hopeful. I think it's important to have hope. Bobby, there's a very famous movie. Don't remember the name right now. It eludes me right now, but I could remember. Basically, the theme of the movie is that every movie has like the good and the bad characters. So the bad character in the movie, they're going around and they're basically like destroying stuff as usual. And then one of the people in the movie said that there was one thing that bad character hadn't destroyed, and if they destroyed that, it would destroy the entire universe. And you know what that thing was?
Hope had to be.
It was hope. So with that being said, as long as you have hope, if you're up this morning and you have hope, that means you have existence, you have an opportunity, and you have the ability. And like I was telling somebody just yesterday, the human spirit is absolutely amazing. If you have hope and you have the human spirit, then you could achieve anything. Doesn't matter where you're starting right now. Whatever happened yesterday is from yesterday. Today is today. And like one of my mentors used to say, you can't win today's game with yesterday's score. So that means that you have a new opportunity to do something great. So with that being said, Bobby, I'll let you take us to the break. And then when we come back, we'll jump right into the topic. Anything you want to say?
No, today's topic, guys, is I'm going to save the topic title, but today's topic will help you get greater clarity, simplify and amplify your message so that you can cut through the noise in your industry. An absolutely powerful topic that I can't wait for us to open up when we get back.
There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 + 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 + 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 + 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 + 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence, add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow. Confidence is key. Most of the people I work with, they have the education, the experience, and the expertise. We call those the 3 E's. But they're looking for the 3 I's: the income, the impact, and the independence. And I always tell them that the bridge between the 3 E's and the 3 I's is marrying your confidence to your competence. Most of the people I work with, again, have all of the competence in the world. What I help them do is get the confidence.
Nice. So, welcome back, guys. This is your Breakfast with the Brand, and today's topic, man, me and Junior are gonna have some fun. So, if you have an offer, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat. If you're working on your offer, put a 2 in the chat. So, the offer is what you tell the people you do. Like, hey, I do this for these individuals so that they can get X result. Like, if you have that offer craft out, you know exactly what it is, and it's working for you, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't know what that is and you're trying to figure it out, you're still honing in, you're still getting it tightened up, put a 2 in the chat. So what me and Junior are going to be talking about today is how to craft great offers around phenomenal brands, because your brand supports the offer. And when the brand supports the offer, what happens is the offer becomes irresistible. By working with a lot of clients, and Junior, I'm sure, can say the same, one of the toughest parts for clients is messaging, is really figuring out how to say this to the marketplace effectively. So I've got a slew of questions for Junior today on how we can unpack offers, how we can unpack messaging, how the brand actually supports the offer. And if you don't have a strong brand that supports the offer, that's why the offer is not irresistible. And all of these components work together to generate revenue in your business. So my first question for you, Junior, is as a expert copywriter and someone that has done several websites, what are some of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs are making, seasoned entrepreneurs and newbies? Like, what are all of these entrepreneurs doing that is causing their messaging to be confusing, lack clarity?
Well, Bobby, that's a phenomenal question. Great place to start. And I'll put it to you this way, guys. I want you to imagine, let's say you go to the concert of one of your favorite bands. Maybe you love rock, or maybe you love hip hop, or whatever genre of music you love. Let's say you go to a concert and you're up on that stage. Okay, so let's say, in fact, let's just say, yeah, let's say you're up on that stage. Okay, and let's say, you know, like how you have those situations where maybe you go to a concert or you go to an event. Maybe you brought your daughter, your son, or your niece or your nephew, and they're lost in the crowd. Sometimes the event promoters will be nice enough to let you go up on the stage and say, hey Molly, your mom needs to see you backstage, or something like that, right? You've experienced that, right? I think most of us have. So I want you to imagine you go to a concert, okay, and you're up on stage and you're trying to call out someone, but this time it's not your niece, it's not your daughter, it's not your son, it's your ideal client. Okay. So when you get on that mic, and let's say your ideal client's name is Michelle, the biggest mistake that most entrepreneurs make is they try to call out more than one person at the same time. So I want you to imagine you're trying to say, in one breath, you're trying to say, Michelle Bobby Bradley. Michelle Bobby Bradley. you know, like that's what it is. So the number one mistake, and I'm sure you could guess that neither Michelle, neither Bobby, or neither Bradley would get the message. It would be confusing. And as you know, you confuse, you lose. The number one mistake most people make is that they try to call out too many people at the same time. So they're trying to serve 3 different ideal clients. And they're trying to call out all of those ideal clients with one message on one platform at one time. If you try to call 3 people at the same time, none of them will answer. So that is by far the number one mistake I see when it comes to entrepreneurs and their messaging.
Wow. You know, what I like about this is we don't talk about ideal client profiles enough. You know, we do on the inside. Like if you're inside the Leadership Leverage or you're inside of the Branded Like a Leader Academy or one of our programs, we talk about that a lot. But if you're just scrolling the web or you're just scrolling timelines and stuff like that, the gurus aren't going very deep in ideal client profiles. And I think that's another challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs right now. Is like they don't know how to craft an ideal client profile, so they don't know how to spell Michelle's name. So I love the analogy that you use. So let's say you're trying to say someone's name, and you're trying to say one name. Well, in the English language, we have syllables, we have consonants and vowels, so to speak. So like you got to spell the name out. And if you don't spell it out, then when you try to say it, it might not sound like English. So maybe you are trying to say one name, but you're not saying the name properly, or you're not pronouncing it or enunciating it the right way. That could be equivalent to you have this ideal client in your mind that you want to talk to, but you're not effectively stringing together the various geographics, psychographics, and demographics necessary, the syllables, the consonants, the vowels, for them to actually hear you. So I love that analogy, Junior, because it's really simple and straightforward. So as you speak to this one ideal client, would you agree that you can make $1 million with one client? Like if you had one Michelle and you knew that client through and through, could you focus on one client, one market, and potentially one ideal client profile and make $1 million? Or should people keep holding on to this idea that they need multiple streams of revenue in order to ever reach $1 million? Like, what's your experience been?
Yeah, so Bobby, absolutely. In fact, it is recommended that you focus on one profile to get to six figures and then just do the same thing over and over to get to seven. In fact, that's how most people do. You get to seven figures by focusing on one profile, one message, solving one problem with one product, and sometimes on one platform. And that's how you go from six to seven figures, and then eventually from seven to eight. And then when you get to eight, then you could start to, target other profiles and do what's called scaling. There's what you call geometric scale, which is not to get too deep, but like scaling across different what we call verticals. So a vertical is a different space in the market that you could enter that doesn't necessarily require you to spend more money. For example, I could be a coach that went to seven figures and then I offered consulting. That's a different vertical in the same industry that doesn't cost me more money to produce that service. That's what I'm talking about. But you don't necessarily have to do that when you're starting off. It's actually more advisable to just start off with one thing, trying to talk to one profile and sell one product in one space, one time, one platform.
You know, something Shaan said comes to mind when you say that. Scoring is boring. Shaan told me that a few years ago. He's like, scoring in business is boring. And I think that's what catches up a lot of entrepreneurs, as we're looking at the movies, right? We're watching The Wolf of Wall Street. We're watching the Grant Cardones that are on their private jets. We love these guys, and we love what they do, and we love the lives that they portray to us, and we see the excitement, right? We see the excitement, and when we see the excitement, I think a lot of us think that that's how it's supposed to be every day. I feel like in our minds, we think we're supposed to wake up, sell a new product, meet new people, and be on planes, sipping Mai Tais, traveling the world. But the reality in my experience has been it's a lot more underground work, a lot more behind the scenes grind, a lot more getting a solution to your prospect or to your client over and over and over again until you can do it without thinking about it. And that, I think, over time becomes monotonous, it becomes tedious, and it becomes boring. So in this world of business, real business, because once you get a stage of boring and then you go from boring to excitement again, it's like working out. You work out hard and then you hit a plateau and then you get strong again. So for you, Junior, what do you do when you get bored? Do you ever get bored? Because you're doing the same thing over and over and over. You're calling numbers, you're reaching out to people. How do you keep it exciting, or do you have a completely different perspective?
That's interesting, man. I haven't thought about that. I don't feel boredom. I don't of course there are things that I find boring, like, but I right now I don't feel bored. It never occurred to me that sometimes people feel bored. But one thing I will say, Bobby, is that the boring work is what makes you money.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, the boring work is what makes money. I want everybody to think about the last time you went to a gas station and you went to, let's say you went on the inside, you filling up your tank, you went on the inside, and then you pulled maybe a Snickers bar, near the cashier, or you went into the fridge and you got a drink. How exciting was that? Was that very exciting? Probably not. Probably was more like routine, stuff that you do every day, stuff that you don't even really think about, like consciously. You're not actually thinking about pulling the Snickers. But I know for me, I just go, I get something, and I get out. So that stuff isn't necessarily exciting, but I guarantee you the people selling those drinks, the people selling those snacks, the people selling those whatever inside of those stores, that's a boring thing to do. They're making a lot of money.
Hmm.
They're making a lot of money, and it's stuff that we never think about. People selling toilet paper making millions of dollars, and we never think about it. So
Yeah.
the boring stuff is what makes the money. So I'll say to everybody here, you absolutely have to do the boring quote unquote work. The key is find somebody that could do the boring work, so you don't have to do the boring stuff yourself.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah. And, Shaan also said something once. He was like, what you hate to do, someone loves to do. What you hate to do, there's someone that you could pay handsomely who loves to do it. Me personally, I don't like systems, so to speak. Like I like what they do for me, but I don't like building them. I did data analytics for 12 years in the United States Marine Corps. So I know how they work. I know how to manage and leverage them, but I don't like it. So guess what? I don't plan to build a business that requires me to manage all of my systems. I'd much rather pay someone to manage those systems for me. So as you're listening to this right now, put a 5 in the chat if there is something you can't wait to offload from your plate. Like there's something you're doing right now that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to pay somebody to do this. Like I cannot wait to get this done. If you have something like that, I will tell you a secret, a tip, right? Get good at it. The faster you get good at it, the faster you'll be able to pay somebody to do it, because it's normally that one thing that is the bottleneck. And we know what it is. Like Bradley knows, Michelle knows, I know. If I could put a 5 in, I'd put a 5 in the chat right now. It's like there's one thing that I don't want to do. But guess what? The better you get at it and the faster you get proficient at it, guess what? The moment you can say, I know how to do it. If I hire someone to do it, I know how to hold them accountable to it. And in most cases, if you've done it well enough and you've got something working, the person you hired will do it better than you. And that's how I've seen many people get out of jobs in their business that they don't want. And everyone has one. Everybody has a job in their business that they don't want to do, but has to get done. So as we move to the next section for Junior, I want us to talk a little bit about the brand now. So if I was a high-end luxury suit maker, but my store was ran down, raggedy, and like trash and toilet paper was all in my parking lot, and you came into my store and the price tag was like $200,000 for a suit. Like if you saw the ambiance, you saw the brand of my store, my positioning, and then you came into the store and you saw $100,000. You saw my offer. Would you be likely to buy that suit from that janky ran down spot? Or would you be like, there's no way this offer and this brand can be congruent? Like they just don't match. What would you do walking into a ran down suit dealer asking for a $200,000 suit, but it's a $20 parking lot?
Bobby, you're asking me that question. You want me to answer that for real?
For real. What would you do? What would
I
you do?
mean, bro. Well, for 200,000, that's a very extreme example. I think for 200K for a place with toilet paper, I don't think I would. I don't think I would buy the suit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I would buy the suit. Nah, I probably would say no.
And I
Because for
think
me, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you have toilet paper on your floor, probably have a little bit in the suit pocket.
exactly, exactly. And that's really what I wanted to get to there, is that that's how many of our offers can look when we haven't made the investment in the brand. Because here's the thing, the suit might be pristine. Like, check this out. Like, the suit might be made handmade by the best people in the country, flown in. Like, literally, the suit is worth $400,000. They're giving it away for a half price, so to speak. But a person won't even look at the suit seriously if the ambiance, the brand, or the office space is off. And that's what I really want us to think about today is, does your brand align with your offer? Are you asking for more in financial compensation than you're providing in luxurious experience? Because purchasing is an experience, and the experience oftentimes is a precursor to how much the person is willing to spend. So what has been a experience for you, Junior? Or actually, I'll ask it this way: as a business owner, as a direct marketing consultant working in multiple verticals, what type of experience do you personally try to create for your clients so that they have no hesitation to price?
Well, Bobby, the answer is pretty simple. The answer is simplicity. What I've found is that online marketing can be complicated and very complex for people who are not copywriters, who are not marketing geniuses. So if you don't know marketing, it could be very complex. It could get very complex very quickly. So for me, all I try to do is I try to just make the process as simple and as easy as possible. And that's my thing, because I really and truly believe that that's what people need. So my whole goal and the whole reason why I do what I do is to make online marketing simple.
Wow. You know, I think it was Da Vinci who said simplicity is the highest form of sophistication. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yep.
So, with that being said, I think that's another thing that we can do better as entrepreneurs, and I'm talking from a vicarious position. So, let's say you find yourself building your business and you're scaling, or at least you're trying to scale your revenue. Let's say you haven't broken to the multiple six figures, or you haven't hit your seven figures yet. Like, that's your goal. How simple are you positioned? I think is a good question. CSA, that's how we open the call. Clarify, simplify, amplify. So when we get to simplicity, we have to first start with clarity. So if you don't mind speaking to your clarity process, because you took me through a web challenge or a web launch. So when I was building my website about 2 years ago, I sat down with Junior and we worked over this thing for maybe 2 to 3 months. And we were just going through the things needed to get clearer and clearer and clearer. So what process do you use, or do you at least recommend to these entrepreneurs that need more clarity so that they can start leveraging simplicity?
All right. So let me just clarify. What I'm saying is not that you should just do something simple. So there's two different kinds of simple. There's simple that's not well thought out, and then there's simple that's sophisticated.
Mhm.
So what I'm doing, or what I do, is I make complex things simple to understand.
Right.
And that takes a certain level of mastery over a subject. So for example, even with building an ideal client, I can build an ideal client profile in 5 minutes. once you once you tell me what you want.
Mhm.
So which leads me to the answer to the question you asked me, which is, how do you find clarity? Clarity is, you get clarity from asking the right questions. So you find clarity through coaching. Coaching is what gives you clarity, which is why the process that we went through, Bobby, it worked, because through the process of coaching, you're able to find more clarity, and then you're able to distill complex subject matter and then make them simple.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
100%.
that's it. But it doesn't mean that you could just do something that looks like you didn't really thought about it. You never really thought about it too much. And then that's all of a sudden that's like, and I'm not a big art person, okay? But sometimes I see, and how many of you put it in the chat? How many of you have seen like those pieces of art where they just like splash the paint on and they dash it here and they dash it and they put like $1 million
Yeah.
on the thing. And I came across a video just last week of them just I think they call it alternative art or something like that, where they're just dashing stuff on the canvas, and it happens in like 5 minutes, and then they charge you like hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. I don't understand it, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just, stitching a website together or just throwing a random offer out there. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about doing something that is very strategic, that is quite complex, but the presentation of it is very simple.
Yeah. You know,
So on the back end, it is complex. If you had to peel back the layers very complex. So when we build systems, for example, in let's say like a CRM, we might build something to where Bobby only has to push a button. When Bobby pushes that button sends out an automatic email, which triggers another automation to send out a contract, which then alerts the rest of Bobby's team, which then adds this particular client to a certain sequence that will alert Bobby if the client doesn't sign the contract within 24 hours.
mm-hmm.
The presentation or the action that Bobby takes is very simple. He pushes a button. But on the back end of that, you have very complex systems working to make the user interface very simple. And that's what I'm referring to.
Wow. You know, as we get ready to go to the break, one thing that I'll say, very simple. I think it was Mark Twain who said, I would have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have time. That's a connection to simplicity. All right.
That's right. That's right. All right, guys. So we'll be right back after this break. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat.
In brand clarity, exactly what you're going to get is what it sounds like. Clarity for your brand. What is your color? What is your logo? What is your unique value proposition? Who are you speaking to? Why? How should you speak to them? How should I position myself? That's what you're going to learn in brand clarity. You need other people to have the same clarity on your brand that you do. But this is the gap. If you don't have clarity on your brand, then no one else is going to have clarity on your brand either. It's like messaging. Your message sounds clear to you, but is your end user receiving the value that you're trying to provide? I guarantee you that after you go through brand clarity, they will, and so will you. And that's how you'll scale your brand. The difference between sales and closing, I get this all of the time, guys. Closing is elegant. Closing is luxurious. Closing is the most profitable. Sales, high pressure tactics. No one associates car sales, right? The sleazy sales tactics with closing, because closing is elegant. Closing is excellent. You have to be a professional in order to close deals. Listen, when you do this the right way, when you learn what we're going to teach you in here, your clients will be trying to close you. And they won't let you close them for low numbers. So you'll be able to heighten, increase your profitability, increase your visibility, increase your reach, and increase your impact in the marketplace. And be confident and comfortable charging higher prices than you ever thought possible to the right people who can actually pay for them and then say thank you for closing them.
Nice. So now that we're back, guys, how many people are enjoying this? How many people would like us to go deeper in how to actually craft an offer, like an XYZ statement? Really unpack this. If you're enjoying this so far, let us know. And if you want us to go a little bit deeper, if you want us to really connect the brand to the offer, let us know that in the chat. But what I'm thinking, Junior, is we should really dissect this, break it down for the people so that they can see it. We don't have to get complicated or too deep, but everybody after watching this segment should be able to play around with their offers strategically. So an offer has a few things in there. It's got a value proposition. All right. So that's one component of the offer. It's got a who. Who are you talking to is a very common component of the offer. Then there's got the solution and the problem. So solution, I'm actually going to write these down. This is live, by the way, unscripted. So you've got the value proposition. You've got the ideal client, ICP, ideal client profile. You've got the problem. And then you've got the solution. So an example of an offer might be, we help dads lose 10 pounds of fat and gain 5 pounds of muscle with our unique 30-minute training. Simple. So that's a offer. Now, as I turn it over to Junior, what components do you use? Because I know you were reading the book $100 Million Offer recently by Alex Hermosi. So when you're crafting offers, what do you think about? What process do you go through? So that's my process.
Yeah, Bobby. So the process that I go through is very similar. I go back to the root. So the root is, what problem are you solving? So I actually start by completing the ideal client profile, because everything starts right there. Once you have the ideal client profile, your job is to list out all of the problems or all of the challenges that this profile is facing. So once I go through all of the problems, I then ask myself, well, what are the solutions to all of these problems? So, for example, let's say an ideal client says, well, the number one problem is I need to maybe gain more muscle, unable to gain muscle, stuck in the same area at the gym, um, need more vitality, need more energy. So I literally say, okay, well, the key benefits or the key benefit statements would be helping you to find more energy for the gym, increasing your vitality, helping you to add on 10 pounds of muscle in less than 10 weeks. So I then start to craft the statements of benefit, which I do so by reverse engineering the problem. So if the problem is how to add, or in fact, adding on 10 pounds of muscle mass, the statement would say how to add on 10 pounds of lean muscle mass. That would be the benefit of my program. So the benefit will literally say, benefit number one, you're going to learn how to add on 10 more pounds of lean muscle mass. Literally, just from reverse engineering the problem, you create a key statement of benefits. Now, once you have those key statements of benefits, your next task is to figure out, well, how am I going to deliver them? So in other words, what is the delivery mechanism for the offer? So with you said something about a 30-minute training. You could have a delivery mechanism in the form of coaching, in the form of training, etc., etc. But basically, you want to figure out, how am I going to deliver that product? Once you figure out how you're going to deliver that product, then you have to ask yourself, what will the support for that product look like? So are you going to be able to support them 24/7? Is it 9 to 5? Is it via email? Is it via text? Is it via Zoom? Etc., etc. And then once you have those components, it's time to start naming your product. So the name is meant to give the product, or meant to capture the audience by basically telling them what the product is about, and presenting them with a unique value proposition. So, for example, how to gain lean muscle mass in 30 minutes or less from the comfort of your home, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And then after that, man, you're pretty golden. Once you have the name, and once you reverse engineer the offer, then it becomes magnetic.
And Junior, that's where all the money is. Now, granted, that's a pretty general statement, but if you don't have anything to offer the people, they have nothing to buy. And if they don't have anything to buy, where are you going to get money from? And I think this is one of the things that a lot of times goes overlooked, because we know our audience. Our audience is full of intelligent individuals, full of people with they have the experience, they have the expertise, they have the education, and they're trying to figure out how to turn all of that into money. Well, the first step is the offer. It's the offer. And if no one's spending time on the offer, here's what I see people do. They spend a disproportionate amount of time on the product or the service, and a disproportionate amount of time on the offer. Meaning they spend 20% of their time on the offer and 80% of their time on the product or the service. But the reality is, no one buys products or services. They buy the offer. So if you're not spending any time on, how Junior would say, selling the thing that sells the thing, right? He's like, don't sell the thing, sell the thing that sells the thing. Like, what that really means is the offer. No one is, I like how Seth Godin put it, and this is just to really help connect the dots for you guys. Like, Seth Godin put it like this: when I go to Home Depot and I purchase a drill bit, I'm not purchasing a drill bit. I'm purchasing the hole that the drill bit can make me, because he's saying when I go back home, I want to hang up a picture. So when I go to the depot to buy the tool to hang up the picture, I don't care about the bit. What I care about is the hole that I'm going to put the needle in or the nail in so that I can hang up my frame. And when you think about your business that way, you finally start thinking about the client instead of yourself. And this is another thing that I find is very crucial to success in business. So if you are an expert and all you think about is your expertise and how good you are as a coach, how good you are as a consultant, how much you've overcome, and you just think about your product and solution, when are you thinking about what the prospect is looking for? How much time are you thinking about where the prospect is and what they want? And if you're not spending more time thinking about them, the question becomes, why should they spend money with you if you're not even thinking about them? Like, you're thinking about yourself. So that's just a bit of a harsh reality, but it's the truth. Without critical listening and without being able to hear the market and move with the market, it's very little that you can do in the world of sales and conversions. So my next question for you, Junior, is, when it comes to hearing the market, when it comes to listening for what the people want and giving them what they want, how do you go about that?
Bobby, so you have to do a market research process. So there's a specific process that I go through, in which I research the market, and then I'm able to pull out the different pain points of that market in order to build that profile. And that's sort of how I, quote unquote, listen in. I listen in by doing research. So that's what I'll recommend.
Mm. And research is another thing that is just blows people's mind that it has to get done. I remember when we went through Branded Like a Leader and Shaan taught the three questions to ask to craft a phenomenal offer. I can't remember exactly what they were verbatim, but I believe one of the questions was, and this, guys, if you're taking notes, write this down. Like, it is powerful. One of the questions was what if I were to create a product, what one thing would my product have to do in order for it to be a good investment for you? That was one question that we had to ask as we were doing our market research. Another question was, if this product did A, B, C, and D, how much would you be willing to pay to have this solution or to own this solution? And then I think another question, there was three questions that stuck out to me a lot. It was, what one thing would my product have to do? What three things would you like to have within this solution or experience? And how much would you be willing to pay to have it? How much can you pay to have it? Like, those three questions can help you craft offers out of this world. But imagine trying to craft an offer and not know what the ideal client can pay or is willing to pay. Try crafting an offer or providing a solution to someone and not knowing how they want their problem solved. It's almost like serving someone a steak without knowing how they want the steak cooked. If they want it medium rare and you bring it to them well done and a little bit burned, they're like, what? I like steak. A steak is a steak, but it's not the way I wanted it. And when you don't give people what they want the way they want, guess what? They feel cheated. They don't feel like they got their money's worth. They don't feel like you understood them. And all of these things are very important. So in your experience, Junior, how do you make sure you get it right? So when you're doing the market research, we know it's a process. We know it's a learning experience, but what can you do as an entrepreneur and a marketing expert to get it right?
So like I said, the specific process that I went through, that I go through every single day, I know that I get it right because I'm going based on just objective data. So it's not my opinion. It's just being objective. It's just objective data. So the data doesn't lie. The data doesn't lie. If you have good sources, when you do your research, then the data doesn't lie. So that's how you know you're getting it right, by just sort of being objective and just going along with the data, going along with what you're receiving as input from the market, because the market itself is always right. The market is always right. So that's how I know I'm right. If what I'm seeing is coming from the market, then it has to be right. It has to be right. So that's how you know you're right.
Man. And that leads to the impact, income, and independence everybody's looking for. And that's what's so funny. It's like the things that we want and the things that we're looking to achieve. I'd like to tell you guys a story, very quick story before we go to the break, about behind the scenes and on the scene. Behind the scenes and on the scene. So when you're on the scene of your business, it's like you're the man or you're the woman. You have the brand colors and you're crushing it. Everybody loves you. When you come into the spot, it's like they know your name. You are that person. But behind the scenes, it's like fires everywhere. You're trying to figure this out. You're trying to figure that out. We call it build, measure, learn. You're building things. You're measuring the results of the things that you built, and you're learning in real time. And you're doing all of this stuff every single day. And that's what makes entrepreneurship so exciting for so many people. And I think one of the things we have to be mindful of as we're scaling and growing our business, and the story for me is, I remember going through a period in my business development where all I did was learn. All I did was learn. I would just come into my office, I would do my basic tasks, and then I would learn about business. This was a time when I was going through Branded Like a Leader, Coaching Like a Leader, Closing Like a Leader. I was going through all of the Like a Leader courses. So as I was going through all of these Like a Leader courses, I was extremely overwhelmed. And I was digesting tons and tons of information. But every time I digest more information and downloaded it, what happened was it connected to something else. So Coaching Like a Leader started to connect to Closing Like a Leader. And Closing Like a Leader started connecting to Consulting Like a Leader. And Consulting Like a Leader started connecting to Speaking Like a Leader. And the reason I'm sharing this story with you guys today is because when you do this right and you put pressure on yourself to learn, to grow, to scale yourself, then you scale the brand. And we opened up because you are the brand. Don't forget that. You are the brand. So when you scale you scale the brand. And what happens is when you scale the brand and you make the offer from your authentic self, the offer becomes more irresistible. We're getting ready to go to a break, but I just wanted to share that with you guys. If you don't have an irresistible offer, it may be because you're still making yourself more and more irresistible. And there's nothing wrong with that. Keep on going.
When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, you're going to add a zero to the world, but you'll also add a zero to your revenue. Let's grow.
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. I said Shaan Ride East.
Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes.
Man, super exciting, Junior. Super exciting. As you played the first video, I was like, wow, it aligned so well, because we were talking about the brand clarity piece and how you are the brand. I was like, wow, Junior's outdoing himself. He's outdoing himself. So I just want to reference that video really quickly as we wrap up, and I turn some things back over to Junior, ask a few more questions. And the time we've got left here is in reference to that video. You are the brand. And you guys have heard us say that, a million times, but I want to also add this caveat. Here's my perspective. Everything that I have is a direct reflection of everything that I am. So if I want more, I need to become more. So the interesting thing about this perspective for me, and if you adopt it, the same will be true for you, is if you add more to yourself, if you increase your own internal value and your own ability to add value to others, you become more priceless. You become more valuable. You become less of a commodity and more of an exclusivity. And that is something I think really separates successful businesses that are launching from the businesses that drown out. So for you, Junior, as you've been seeing brands, building brands, a part of stabilizing brands, what have you found as one of the core components of a long-lasting brand? Like, what leads to brand longevity and sustainability in the marketplace? Brand dominance.
Man, so if you analyze, I mean, we have case studies available. So we could actually go into the market and we could take a look at brands that exist and ask ourselves what caused them to continue growing and what caused them to get bigger. If I had to pinpoint one thing, I would say it is the ability to stay in tune with the audience, with the market, and what they need, and being able to shift or pivot or adjust as needed. We've seen the evolution of several brands. I could use the example of The Rock. So most of us know The Rock. We could use Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is a very big brand, YouTuber. We could use musicians, artists, all kinds of brands that you could think of. They've always sort of shifted and evolved over the years as the market and as the world has shifted. So I would say being able to stay in tune with what's trending, like what's actually happening, while at the same time not losing the essence of what makes you you, would be one of the number one qualities that I see in long-lasting brands.
Wow. I'm thinking about another thing, because I've been taking notes as well. I was thinking about flexibility, adaptability, elasticity. That the ability to change and to adapt is very important. And one thing that I'll say to the audience right now, as you're growing your business and you're scaling things out, take it one day at a time. Today's conversation had some elements of things you could do right now and some future focused things such as longevity and brand dominance. But no matter where you are in your brand's development, I think taking it one day at a time is one of the best things you can do, especially if you're building a influential personal brand. So the personal brand is you. So I think it was Kevin Hart who says, my goal is just to be better than I was yesterday. Now, granted, he might not be the first person to say that, but I heard him say it and I like the way he said it. So with that being said, how is your brand better today than it was yesterday? And when I say brand, yes, you are the brand, but what activities are you doing to solidify your brand? It could be writing emails. Maybe you have an email that goes out every week or every day. Is that email getting better? Is it authentically communicating your brand's morals, values, and principles better? Do you have a newsletter? Do you do regular posts? Do you take photos? Are your pictures getting better? And it doesn't necessarily mean you got to upgrade your lens, but are you getting a greater clarity each day, even if it's 1%? They say if you get 1% better every day, you'll be 360% better by the end of the year. That's a phenomenal way to think about it. So do you have any last remarks for us, Junior, before taking us out of here? My last piece would be take that brand one day at a time.
Yeah, what you said was very, very powerful. I want to touch on that. So what we've seen is that the strongest brands, the biggest brands on earth, they all started from a philosophy. So they're very philosophical brands. If you look at a company or an entrepreneur like Steve Jobs, the whole brand Apple started around an idea. Like it was a philosophy, it was a way of thinking that really and truly sparked the creation of the brand. And what we're seeing is that most brands, most long-lasting, sustainable brands, they all come from an idea or a certain way of looking at the world. And that way of looking at the world stays the same as times evolve. So I'll give you a great example of this. A great example would be with Musk and with SpaceX, the whole idea of SpaceX. Why does it exist? So Musk's whole thing is he wants to save the planet by making human beings interplanetary beings. Basically, we can live between here and other planets. That's an idea. Do you have the example of other phenomenal companies like Apple, like Google. I think Google's big philosophy is do no harm. So Google exists around the philosophy of doing no harm. In other words, as long as we're here and we're not doing any harm to the earth, to the world, to its people, then we've done our job. So if you're thinking about building a brand, you should always start with the philosophy around that brand, the vision around the brand, the whole idea, like what is the big idea? Anyways, so for me, my thing is making online marketing simple. That's my big idea. And that's why I'm here. So what is your big idea? What is the big idea for your brand? What is your brand philosophy? And how do you plan to move and to shape that and to bring it into existence using your personal brand? That is the question I would leave to the audience today. Just something to think about.
Wow. Well, guys, this has been your Breakfast with the Brand. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 a.m.